Hi, I'd like to talk about TV, films and comics on this channel, and today I was sitting around and I thought we're going to talk about my pile of shame, or at least the first part of my pile of shame.
Shame.
Okay, when I say pile of shame, what I mean is the books that I have bought, not all at once, but bought and accumulated and not actually got around to reading yet. I set myself a budget every month that I'm allowed to sort of play with without sort of going overdrawn and not being able to pay the bills or save any, and that is devoted to buying my books. Obviously I like to price watch, so I would either sit on some prices and wait for a book price to drop so that I can buy it when it is the appropriate price, which can then mean that you accumulate either a few books quite quickly, or you end up waiting, but then you've got to read them. And I'm not one of those people who sort of chasing views or subscriptions, because ultimately I ain't got that many and I ain't that bothered. Making the videos is something I do to relax, not something I do as a primary sort of activity. Reading the books is the primary source of activity for me, the hobby as it were. And I refuse to make a video on books I haven't read. I know some people on YouTube, professional YouTubers, let's say, will just buy a book and just do a flick through, which is absolutely cool because they can do what they want with their money and their time. Me, I just like the idea of only talking about a book if I've actually read it. So that means there's a few books I've got that I just haven't got around to reading because of either lack of time, not being bothered because the particular book subject doesn't take me as something I want to read, or just due to life getting in the way. What I thought might be an interesting thing to do while I'm going through this list is just put up on the screen what the current price of these books are, next to the price that I actually paid for them. Only really as a guide so people can understand and appreciate why, if you're into collecting things like the deluxe formats or the omnibuses, how watching prices is important if you want to get a deal. I mean, if you've got loads of money, that's fine, you know, rinse it on whatever you want. But also that these book prices do fluctuate, and sometimes you do have to just strike and get them when they're cheap. And if you get them at a certain price, you could be paying half as much and be able to afford more omnibuses in the future because of the money you've saved. So I'll stick that up on the screen as well. First up on the list is Postal, the Complete Collection. This is a book I recently got, and I've read fully digitally, but I haven't had the chance to sort of go through the omnibus version of it, because there are some extra editions in there that I haven't got around to reading, just because I didn't want to buy them digitally. Unfortunately, this one came through with some damage to the corners. Next up is The Black Road, from Image and Brian Wood. I've read the first volume digitally, but I haven't read the second volume, and I liked the art and the story in the first volume. I thought I might as well dip in now and get the deluxe edition while it's out. Next, Superman Batman Omnibus Volume 1. I have actually read all of these and have them in trade paperback format, but I want to reread the books in the omnibus because, to be honest, I read them when they first came out in trade, and whilst I remember some of the stories like the Supergirl one, the others I'm well sketchy on, so I don't really want to talk about it until I've refreshed myself. And also, you know, I bought the book, I like the art and the stories generally, so I want to read it just for my own pleasure. Okay, next up, Harley Quinn Omnibus of Volume 2 by Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti. I've read part of this digitally as the Harley Quinn's Little Black Book, but as far as the additional stories in here to make up the rest of the omnibus go, I haven't read them, so I want to reread all of that because I enjoyed the Little Black Book, and I think the Amanda Connor Jimmy Palmiotti stories are good, fun reads. They're not too heavy, and there's something to read if you want a sort of break from grim, dark events going on in the world, or just grim, dark superhero stories. Okay, next up is the Marvel Knights Omnibus by Joe Quesada, Kevin Smith, Jimmy Palmiotti. This is obviously your Daredevil stories. I've not read this before, so I'm looking forward to it. This was a book that was ludicrously overpriced for a period of time and seems to keep jumping up in price. I managed to get it for about £30 in the end, which I think was a steal. I thought it was going to come through damaged and all messed up, but it was a brand new copy, fully sealed, so I was really happy with that. And I'm looking forward to reading it. Okay, next one is the Marvel Colours collection. I've read half of the stories in this. I've read Daredevil Yellow, Spider-Man Blue, but I haven't read Captain America White and Hulk Grey. And I certainly haven't read any of them in the sort of deluxe omnibus sized format. Read the first two digitally via Prime reading on Amazon, so it's a good place to check out. I've talked about that before on this channel. But just from opening it up and looking at a few of the pages, the art really pops in this version. The way Marvel has treated the art and the larger print format really works well with this, so I'm looking forward to going through that. Next up is one of the young adult books from DC that I bought along with Black Canary Ignite, and that is Under the Moon, A Catwoman Tale. It was like a £5, so I just thought I'd give it a try, and if I don't like it I can give it to either one of my friends' kids or my niece. But it's a quick read, and sometimes, to be honest, like recently I've not been into reading big omnibus format books just because they sort of, sometimes it can feel like a real challenge to have to get through them. It's nice to pick something up and have the satisfaction of knowing you can complete it in a sitting. And again, Spider-Gwen. I've read the first half of this digitally, but because I was quite taken by these smaller digest style format books from Marvel, where they collect a couple of trades together and you can get them for a very cheap price, I picked this up I think for about £6 or £7, and it's great value. I like the Spider-Gwen character, I enjoy the alternate world that she's in, and I don't like the name Ghost Spider, so we don't really like Ghost Spider stuff. But again, looking forward to reading this from the start all the way through and probably finishing this in a couple of sittings. Then finally, for the Pile of Shame Part 1, is Gotham City Sirens. This is out of its dust jacket because I am currently 3/4 of the way through it. It's by Paul Dini, and it is about Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn and Catwoman when they all share a apartment together. Rather, a great big building, but you know, they're all flatmates. It's fun. I put it down for a long time after getting about a third of the way in because I just didn't feel like picking up an omnibus and reading it. But now I'm back into it. I am whizzing through it, and I'll talk about that on the channel soon, hopefully, when I finish it the next day or so. Okay, so that was the first part of my pile of shame. Is there anything in there you would read first? Let's say I'm nearly through that Gotham City Sirens book, which is a great read, and I'll talk more fully about that later. But are there any there you saw where you went, wow, why has he not read that? Or you'd recommend reading first? Because obviously they all take time to read these great big omnibuses, and I'm reluctant to sort of read a bit of one, then go to another, which is totally something you could do. But I don't know, maybe it's just a sort of OCD or a sense of needing completionism that you go read the whole book once you start and sort of plough through it. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll do a follow-up to this video with the other half of my pile of shame, probably in a week or so. Just almost for my own sort of satisfaction, so that now I know I've put it out there that I've got these books to read, it will make me read them. not that anyone out there is you know, accountable to me for it. I'm only accountable to myself, but I don't know, just sort of a psychological thing, isn't it? Look, please feel free to like and subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.